Welcome back to Europe Now. I've travelled to Barcelona for the second part of the programme. Barcelona is Spain's second largest city. It's also the capital of Catalonia. The economic crisis has fueled Catalan separatism. The current president of Catalonia, Artur Mas, has pledged to hold a referendum on the matter. Valérie Labonne brought us this report.
An unprecedented sight, 1 million people celebrating Catalonia's National Day by marching for independence. An increasing number of people here in Spain's richest autonomous region, which accounts for 1/5 of the country's economy, accuse Madrid of holding them back.
Catalonia is a rich region that nonetheless is heavily indebted. The problem is that it has a fiscal deficit equal to almost 9% of its GDP. That's 16 billion euros. That goes to the state as tax, but the money doesn't come back to us in the form of investments.
Buoyed by the public mood, Catalan President Artur Mas tried and failed to persuade Madrid to allow Catalonia to collect its own taxes. The backlash was swift. Separatists swept regional elections in November. Mas's centre-right nationalists were forced into a minority government with the Catalan Republican Left Party, but the political rivals were united by one desire: to hold a referendum on independence in 2014, a move Madrid says is unconstitutional and will have no legal standing.
We feel that the pact between parties from the right and the left is one that will doom the Catalan economy, and one that businesses and most people here don't want. It's a coalition that will affect Catalan society because it aims to take Catalonia out of Spain, but not out of the economic crisis.
The crisis is so bad that the region demanded a €5 billion bailout last year from Madrid, but there's little gratitude in the town of Vic, whose mayor has no qualms about showing off his political colours.
Catalonia, Europe's newest state.
Like many Catalans, he was outraged in recent years when the Supreme Court overturned a statute dating from 2006, one that transferred significant powers to regional authorities and had recognised a Catalan nation. His response: to create a network of municipalities openly supporting independence. The result of his lobbying, the Spanish flag was taken down across the region.
Because here we're not Spanish, we're Catalan.
He says Spain has always tried to repress Catalan identity and is sure an independent Catalonia can survive.
We're Catalans because we have our own territory and culture. We have a history that's not that of Spain, which was ours alone until 1714. And we have our own language. It's clearly ours because it's spoken today by 10 million people. Many more than speak Danish, or Finnish, or Swedish.
Language has always been part of the political jostling between Catalonia and Madrid, and now it's causing another row. Plans to promote the use of Castilian Spanish in Catalonia's educational system angered many when they were touted in December. After being banned for 40 years during the right-wing Franco dictatorship, Catalan is now the main language in the region's primary and secondary schools. By law, children learn both Catalan and Spanish from primary school onwards, but Spanish is often limited to 2 hours a week. Education workers say that with the new reforms, the school system is being politicised.
Bringing politics into the classroom, it's bad for the educational system. Catalonia's model works and has worked for years. We're not talking about something recent. It's worked for the last 30 years.
Surveys say Catalan pro-independence feeling stands at 57%, but is expected to drop ahead of the referendum. Business groups have come out against independence, and Brussels has told Catalonia that it'll have to apply to be an EU member if it secedes. But those behind the push for independence say that with an economy as big as Denmark, Catalonia would do just fine on its own.
And I'm now in the gardens of the old hospital of Sant Pau to meet Raúl Romeva y Rueda, a Spanish MEP from the Greens. Raúl, very nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you too here in this very, very emblematic hospital. It's one of the historical hospitals in Catalonia, and it also is part of the UNESCO recognition. So it's a very, very nice place to be.
What is your position regarding separatism?
Actually, the first thing to say is that we have to understand that there is a huge demand for being consulted, to be asked what we want to be. The big majority of people is here in favor of the referendum, which not necessarily means to be in favor of the independence. We need to solve this problem in order to focus also on other problems. And secondly, I think that on the last times we have seen very damaging decisions from the central government, from the Spanish nationalism, that are being very badly understood for the population in Catalonia. So I think that we need to rethink the whole model of state, and this is one of opportunity.
What do you respond to those who say it's very selfish because nowadays Spain is vulnerable, it's fragile, and you want to make it even more vulnerable?
I think it's not a question of selfishness. Solidarity is out of question. Nobody in Catalonia is now denying the fact that if you are of those countries that should provide with the common goods, they should be done like this. I mean, nobody is denying this. The question is who is deciding and how, and what is going to be taken the decisions. And that's more a political and democratic problem than economical problem.
And where are we going now?
Well, we're going to the hospital, to the new wing, in order to see how the situation is now evolving there.
We're now in the main hall of the hospital, but it looks to me like a campsite with rows of tents everywhere.
There have been 40 days of people sleeping in the tents. We are in an ideological war, and that's what we are about. I mean, the people is afraid of losing one of the basics of the welfare state, which is the health services. And the gravity is exactly this, the scissors, the cuts that the governments, both in Madrid but also in Catalonia, they are imposing on the health system. This has a consequence of the quality of the workers' job, that's clear, but also on the services that are provided to the people.
Month after month, they mistreat our public services. In December, we were suddenly down 1 month's pay.
The question is that the situation has been every month worse than the months before. And this year, the people working here has seen how the beds are cut, how services are simply closed, how people is being not replaced when they are on leaving. So which means that actually the people working here is not at all motivated to work. And that's when you are talking about health services, that's something that is very worrying.
I understand your argument, but what the government will tell you is that the coffers of the state are empty.
In a situation of crisis, you need also to activate the economy. You need to invest in order to get profits in the short, medium term. How? A new fiscality, a new tax system that is charging on the most rich people, on the more capable people, and also on those activities that are polluter or that are damaging or whatever. The problem is the neoliberal approach that is now dominating in all Europe.
You're a Green MEP. You believe in the Green Revolution, boosting renewable energy. But is the current government doing enough?
Well, actually, the problem is that when Rajoy took over the power, I mean, he stopped all the good trend, the positive trend Spain was doing in terms of the renewables. He blocked any decision that was positive on that sense, and still, the way out perceived by the central government is still investing on the real estate, which is completely crazy. It's mad.
And you're right, for a while Spain was hailed as a sort of example for the rest of Europe with its green revolution. Let's watch our next report to see whether this is still true with the current crisis.
The medieval town of Albuquerque once had big plans for the future.
This was to be the site of one of 5 solar plants, a 50-megawatt plant spread over 200 hectares.
The mayor's dream to see his region profit from Spain's green revolution. It's a technology that Spain has pioneered and a sector that employs around 100,000 people. But just before the €1 billion deal was due to be sealed, the project fell through.
The government adopted a royal decree in January last year, which froze all renewable energy projects in Spain. As a result, our 5 projects were stopped in their tracks.
The 850 jobs the plant would have brought represented a real boost to the Extremadura region, where unemployment is over 33%. Desperate to push his case for continued subsidies, the mayor walked to Madrid and held a much publicised hunger strike. All in vain. The government's moratorium on renewable energy subsidies got rid of €7.2 billion of funding in a sector where Spain is a European leader, second only to Germany.
This acted as a kind of brake on the sector's development. First of all, on the wind energy industry as a whole, in the manufacturing of parts, of generators, but also in the promotion of this energy. Now, for the moment, we don't know what will happen this year or in the future.
Heavily dependent on importing fossil fuels, from 2000 onwards, Spain turned to green energy. A favourable climate allowed the country to quickly conform to a European Union target of 20% renewable energy by 2020 in every member state. In 2008, Madrid started subsidising solar photovoltaics, a form of solar power. The scheme was such a success, the state found itself funding 10 times as many panels as estimated. The bubble popped, a scenario some compare to the country's real estate crash.
As a result, we don't install photovoltaic power generators anymore, and Spain is witnessing the disappearance of this whole sector. We made an enormous investment that we'll have to pay for over the next 25 years, and we're left with an industry incapable of providing employment and generating exports.
In 2000, the centre-right Aznar government froze electricity tariffs to boost consumption, a move contested by Brussels. After years of state-controlled prices and failing to cover the cost of delivering power, Spain's electricity producers were owed a colossal €24 billion. The government hopes a new tax of 7% on electricity production will ease what's known as the tariff deficit.
For many years, consumers haven't paid the full cost for electricity, so we understand that in a certain way it's necessary to plug the hole that's been created. The whole sector is saying it's okay, so we accept the sacrifice, but it must be as temporary as possible.
For the wind energy industry alone, the bill comes to almost €300 million. More than 4 years after the start of the economic crisis, Spain's renewable energy sector is struggling, and the future of the green revolution looks shaky.
And I'm back here in Barcelona with Spanish MEP Raúl Romeva y Rueda. You wanted to show us the city's largest food bank.
In a situation of crisis, solidarity increases. That's the good thing of the situation. When the people realize that there is a lot of needs, there is a big show of solidarity towards those who really need those basics. The problem is that this is the consequences of the state not providing those services. There is a private organization, there is a group of volunteers who are doing this with the help of some institutions who are providing this, but basically it's donations.
Each year there's a Europe-wide collection of food. In a day and a half, here in Barcelona, we collected over 3,000 tons.
And it sounds completely ironic, but the European Union is now cutting its food aid program.
The problem of the European Union is that we're doing everything to save the banks, the economical banks, the financial structures, but we're doing nothing to save the food banks, which are the basics that we need to save. So the paradox here is that the European Union is very good on saving money, but not on saving people. And that's what we really want to denounce. If we don't fight this, we are simply killing people, literally.
Have migrants been turned into scapegoats as a result of the crisis?
The crisis has been one big excuse to attack migrants itself. It's true that there is a lot of situations where the migrants are in more need of this for a basic reason, because basically they have less legal certainty, legal rights than the non-migrants. And the extreme right is using this situation in order to put all the efforts in order to, let's say, try to provoke a reaction from other people that is also in need against migrants, which is not necessarily the situation that we need to see.
Well, Raúl Romeva, thank you very much for talking to us. And let's move to our next story. It's another consequence of the crisis. Spain's iconic Parador hotels are going to lay off hundreds of workers. The chain was founded in the 1920s. It runs hotels in historic locations such as castles and monasteries. This is a report from our correspondent, Adeline Percept.
Alcañiz Castle in northeast Spain is one of a number of intriguing hotels called paradors. These historical buildings, transformed into luxury hotels, are run by a public company. But to save money, the parador will close for several weeks of the year. Tourists from across the world are drawn to the paradors because of the opportunity to sleep in historical bedrooms like this suite in the castle's turret.
One of the things the paradors did was to restore historical monuments that lay in ruins like this one. Today they serve a very important socio-economic and cultural function.
The government of Mariano Rajoy is forcing the company that runs the paradors to cut costs. 28 buildings are to be totally or partially closed. 350 workers will go. Critics say the end game is privatization.
A hotel might have to change the plumbing or wiring of a building, but for a monument like this, which is listed, the work and investment needed are of a different scale altogether, and therefore that cannot be left to the private sector.
The paradors across Spain might be part of the country's cultural heritage, but they need to be restructured, says management. The company has debts of 110 million euros.
We will work increasingly like they do in the private sector in order to become as profitable as a private chain could be. And we'll see later on if there's a privatization or not.
Arts and culture are being squeezed by austerity. Above all, value-added tax on cultural goods has risen from 8% to 21%.
Well, that's the end of our program. I'll leave you with a view of Park Güell, designed by Antoni Gaudi. It's the symbol of Barcelona. Thank you for watching, and join us again next month.